Hi everyone! Welcome back to the Sharona Knitting Podcast. Today is November 29th and I'm coming to you from about 8 a.m. in the morning here in Southern California. This is actually my second time filming this podcast because when I filmed it the first time, I was recording on cinematic mode instead of regular mode. And so the file size was way too big. My voice wasn't lining up with my movements, which was really weird, and I think just a phone glitch. And overall, I just couldn't use that video. So now we're running it back and doing it again. I'm actually coming to you from my new phone. I got the iPhone 17 Pro, and its front camera is better than my iPhone 15. So I'm really excited to see if the video, looks a little better and is a little more high quality. Very excited to just see where all of that goes. I definitely want to make the best content that I can for all of you guys who are following along with me here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's podcast. First things first, I am wearing my first finished object. This is the Copenhagen cardigan by Petite Knit. It is knit up in the Knitting for Olive merino and mohair held double, both in the colorways Dusty Moose. I really love that with Knitting for Olive, you can get the mohair and merino in the exact same colorways and have them match. When I was in the store in Denmark, I was actually able to see all of their swatches. So seeing the mohair and the merino knit up together or seeing it like marled with different colors, I thought all of that was super, super cool. It's so nice that they put all of their swatches online, on Instagram, and you can see them in store if you visit. Excuse me. This Copenhagen cardigan I started about 2 or 3 months ago now. I started it right near the end of August, and it has been quite a whirlwind to get it done. I'll give you some specs on it first before I get into a little story time about it. So I did the extra small size, but I did the length of the small size. So I did 10 buttons. All of these buttons are also from Knitting for Olive. I lengthened the sleeve significantly too because I really like a very long sleeve. So I just knit to wherever I felt was comfortable. I ended up buying 1 or 2 extra balls of the yarn because I knew I would want to lengthen the project overall. I really like that everything is tubular bind off, so all of the edgings are tubular bind off, which I think makes it really clean and crisp and very nice to look at. It's definitely a little bit of a pain to work. When I was working the tubular, it was definitely more difficult than I was expecting it to be and took a lot longer, especially for the body, and especially because I haven't worked a tubular bind off in quite a while, so just took a little bit of a long time, but the finished product is more than worth it, in my opinion. I also love that the collar and the button band is knit at, the button band specifically is knit at the same time, not the collar. You knit the collar first, but the button band is knit at the same time as the rest of the cardigan. So you finish it all at once. You don't have to go and pick up and reknit a ribbed or double knit button band. It's just all done and right there, which I think is really, really nice. I think if I had to pick up and do a new button band, it would have taken me significantly longer and I would not be done with the project right now because I would be putting that off. The button installation was also really easy. I just made sure to line them up exactly where they should be, and the button holes are obviously worked into the button band while you knit, so that was really easy. This cardigan also has another really cool feature. Let me pull it up. It has a pocket, so that's right here. I don't know if you can see that super well, but it does. It has 2 pockets, one on each side, and the pockets are knit as afterthought pockets. So you knit the entire cardigan first, and then you pick up stitches and cut into your work to make a pocket. I was actually really scared when making the pocket. I was so worried that I was going to ruin my sweater because I was cutting into my knitting, and that's not really something I'd ever done before. I've done afterthought heels, but I've always inserted a line of scrap yarn to have the heel. I've never just cut directly into it. My first pocket, I actually did end up picking up the stitches a little slanted. So when I cut, I had to kind of like pick up and then cut a little bit more. And it was a little bit tedious, and I was a little bit worried that things would not work out. But in the end, everything was fine and it turned out great. And I am very, very happy with the way that the pockets turned out and the way that the entire cardigan turned out. Sip of water. So now I want to get into kind of a little story time about what this Copenhagen cardigan really means to me, because I think it's one of the most meaningful projects I've honestly ever made. Finishing this Copenhagen cardigan, if you see me looking down, again, I'm just looking at some notes that I have for myself. Finishing this Copenhagen cardigan really brought me a sense of closure, and I think even just talking about it is bringing me a lot of closure. I started this cardigan in Copenhagen. So in August, I went to Copenhagen to study abroad. And the first weekend that I got there, I went to Knitting for Olive and I picked up the yarn for this cardigan, and I plan to knit it as my knitted in Copenhagen cardigan. I didn't work on it when I traveled outside of Copenhagen and other places in Europe, and I only worked on it. I worked on it while I was in my classes. I worked on it while I was in my homestay. I worked on it while I was visiting Copenhagen sites and stuff like that, like the castles. And it was really cool to have it as this memory. Unfortunately, I had to cut my study abroad experience short, and I came back only 2 months into the experience because of my mental health and because the program that I was with was unequipped to handle my mental health and help me work through it there. So I chose to just come home and work through it here. I chose to be with my support system at home and, my therapist here, my psychiatrist, and really better myself from the comfort of my home before returning back to college in the spring. So yeah, it was a bit of a bittersweet experience for sure, because I had to leave Copenhagen with the cardigan unfinished, which did make me really sad. When I first got back to the States, it was about late October, and I ended up just putting the cardigan in hibernation. I didn't really work on it because honestly, working on it made me really sad. It reminded me of the fact that I wasn't still in Copenhagen. It reminded me of the fact that I didn't finish my entire semester in Copenhagen. And it kind of made me feel like this failure almost, and made me just really anxious and really sad whenever I would look at it. So I just shoved it away into a corner, and I was like, I'll come back to this later. When consulting with my therapist, I was like, I really do want to process these emotions that I was having and the feelings that I was having and move forward. I wanted to be able to be happy with the fact that I had had this new experience and I had experienced this new lifestyle and had pushed myself to do this thing. And even though it didn't work out the way that I intended it to, that it was still okay. So I started picking up the cardigan and working on it little by little while I was in therapy, and that was really nice. It felt like a good way to process my emotions because I could work on the cardigan and kind of think about how I was feeling and think about the memories that I had while working on it and talking it through with my therapist. And so that was honestly really lovely. And I honestly also just really wanted this finished object. This is only the second cardigan that I've ever knit, and I always feel like they're so wearable. I can layer it on top of anything. I can wear it buttoned up or I can wear it open, and it's just so functional. And the gray is such a classic color that I think will be amazing for everything, basically to pair with. And so I really wanted to finish this cardigan, and finishing it, like I said before, has just given me such a deep sense of closure. I really feel that that chapter of my life has now been closed since I finished the cardigan, and I can really move forward. This cardigan holds so many memories, both happy, a little bit sad, a little bit bittersweet, and it's holding on to all of that for me. And I think that that is really lovely, and that is what honestly like making my own clothes and knitwear should be about, is holding on to these memories and being able to essentially wear my memories. I really do love the way that the entire cardigan turned out, and I have been wearing it nonstop for the past 2 weeks, pretty much since I finished it. So yeah, it's washed, blocked, and it's looking great. A little bit, I don't want to talk too much about my experience abroad because it's obviously not super knitting related. But going abroad, I did pick up a ton of lovely Danish yarn, which I showed in one of my very first videos. And I will be doing an entire stash video soon before I go back to college in the new year, of course. And that'll be my home stash, and I'll film a new one of my college stash when I get there. But I mainly wanted to go abroad to challenge myself, to see the Danish educational system, and to also get a bunch of yarn and see the knitting culture. The knitting culture there was lovely. I saw so many people knitting on the train. I saw so many knit sweaters that I recognized all the time, and I thought that was really, really cool. Just really, really cool. But it wasn't without its struggles. I was definitely very homesick. I definitely faced a lot of both racism in the form of like microaggressions and outright very blatant racism, and also some sexist comments as well while I was there that I just wasn't prepared for. I think I haven't ever spent that much time living abroad in Europe, and I didn't understand the racism issue being as a person of color there. It was a little bit difficult for me, and that also impacted my mental health pretty greatly while I was there. And yeah, I just want to be able to move on from that period of life. I had really great memories. I met some amazing new friends that I know will be friends for a really long time. I got to travel to places I've never been before. I got to buy tons and tons of beautiful yarn, and I really got to enjoy a new way of life. I also got to meet my lovely like host family and bond with them as well, and just learn a new language, learn so many new things, try new foods. There were a lot of great parts of that experience, and I am definitely sad that it didn't work out the way I intended it to, because I am someone who always loves a plan. But I'm really happy to be home, and I'm really happy to have this cardigan and all of the memories, both good, bad, and in between, that go with it. So that was my very long little tangent story time on the Copenhagen cardigan. Now I'm going to get into my other finished objects. I have another 4 finished objects to talk about. First, let's talk about, my fingerless mittens. So I knit a pair of fingerless mittens using the leftover Knitting for Olive Merino and Mohair from the Copenhagen cardigan, so it matches. It's really cute. Let me put it on for you. So these fingerless mittens, I decided to self-draft the pattern, and they are inspired very much based off of the Penny Gloves by Petite Knit. The difference is a different stitch count. I used the same like gauge and needle size, but my mittens are knit from the top down actually. So I cast on stitches for the top. I knit until I got to the split area for like where my thumb and my fingers split. And then I use the backwards loop cast on to cast on new stitches for the thumb. Then I knit a couple rounds flat just for the palm of my hand for that wider section. And then I decrease. You can see like a bit of a decreased line on both sides, like a decreased line here. I decreased to form the gusset all the way until I got down to my wrist. And then once I got down to the wrist, I just knit flat, and I knit and stockinette a very, very long wrist. Sorry guys, so my phone did a little chopping out. It got a software update, but hopefully everything is fine. I will just keep on recording as if nothing happened and splice them together. But as I was saying, my glove is pretty much just knit all the way down flat and stockinette from the wrist with a purl edge that I took from the Penny Gloves, and I think that looks really nice. I really wanted to make a very nice long glove. I wanted it to come together super nicely and be really warm on my arms and my wrist. I wanted it to really just be something very functional and very wearable. I have a pair of fingerless mittens that I have made many, many years ago that I've worn a lot while I was at college. And I wear it a lot like to my classes and on days when it's not as cold, but on days when I just want something a little bit warmer to wear, something to keep my hands warm. I also forgot to talk about the thumb. So for the thumb, I did it at the very end. So I picked up stitches into the new cast on, and then I knit a couple rows, and then I knit ribbing to just make the thumb. I thought that was really a really nice way for it to turn out. I also picked up much more stitches than I thought was originally, necessary for the thumb, because the thumb did take a couple of tries. So I ended up having to rip back the thumb once or twice, because the first time I only picked up around like 10 stitches, and that was way too small, it was way too tight. So I went up and almost doubled that number for the thumb here, and now it fits so much better. So I have mittens, I made both of them, so they are a completely done pair. They've also already been washed and blocked. I'm intending to write up another free pattern for these mittens. The first pattern that I ever did, I called the Sharona scarf, and it was just a little stockinette scarf with increases on one side and decreases on the other that I did, and I put that out on Ravelry for people to have. I'm going to be calling these the Sharona mitts. I know, I'm a little self-centered, naming everything after myself, but I think that's really cute. So these are going to be the Sharona mitts, and I will also be writing up just a little free pattern of how I did it to put it on Ravelry in case other people want to knit top down. I've never really seen top down mitten patterns, and so I think that'll be good to have. I also really wanted to knit top down because I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of yarn. I was using just the leftovers from this sweater, so I wanted to make sure that I had enough or even more than enough yarn, and in the end I did. I do even have some leftovers still. But in case you want to use up all your yarn, you can knit one mitt until like 50 grams or use half of it, and then you can knit the other mitt and use 50 grams, and you can make the arm as long as you want and not run out of yarn for your fingers or like for the ribbing or for your thumb or anything like that. I think that is definitely the beauty of knitting from the top down rather than the bottom up. I feel like these mitts are going to be super useful and just really good in the like mild cold weather that we're having. Even in SoCal, it's been a little bit chilly, and it'll get a little rainy and chilly, and it'll definitely be great for when I'm walking to class, going to classes, and I'm not outside a lot at college and like in the snow and in the cold weather, but I'm still outside enough that I want something warm to wear. So yeah, I basically cast these on last week right after I finished the Copenhagen cardigan, and then I cast them off like the same week. It was a super fast knit. I did magic loop in the round, which is the way that I like to do it. I'm not a small circular circumference person. It just feels a little weird on my hands with the super small needles, so I don't do that. But I love the way that this turned out, and I'm really excited to use them this winter. Also, pardon me if I'm sounding a little nasally today. I've been having a little bit of allergies. I think it's been a little windy and dusty still here, and the weather in Southern California has been kind of going up and down. Like, it's been cold, and then it'll get hot, and then it'll get cold again, and I think that that's just been affecting my allergies a little bit, but all good, totally fine. Okay, next finished object that I want to show you guys is, let's see, these socks. Yay! So these are my pair of DK socks, first DK weight socks that I have ever worked. These are the Bear Paw socks by Andrea Mowry of DRK Bear Paw Socks. And I really love the way that they turned out. So they are a toe up sock, meaning that you start at the toe and you work all the way through. It's a heel, flap, and gusset, and then an ankle. I did a bit of a shorter sock, so not quite a shorty, but I would say kind of a mid-length calf area for the sock. And then I made some modifications to the cuff. So for this cuff, you can see that it's a bit of a ruffle bulb is what I'm calling it. I don't know if there's a word for this stitch or if this is like something that people do a lot. But here what I did was I did a rapid round of knit front back increases, then I knit around flat, then I did another round of knit front back increases, and then I knit a couple rounds flat. And then I did 2 rapid decrease rounds to make it kind of like that bulbiness So I think it looks really cute. I think it's really fun and adds a little bit of texture to the sock, which I think is really cool. Let me show you the other sock as well. Here it is. Kind of see it a little better here. I think it's very fun. This yarn is, let's see. This yarn is the Peninsula Yarn Glitter DK, which is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% gold stellina in the colorway Dolores over Sunset Park. And I bought it at the Imagine Knit store in Berkeley, California, which is really close to UC Berkeley. I don't know if you can see the like stellina. You can kind of see it shining through. Let me see. You can kind of see specks of it, but it's really shiny in real life, and I think that the stellina is so beautiful and gorgeous and looks really, really nice. These are also new sock blockers that I got just off Amazon because I have some wooden ones, but I don't really love them. They're a little big, so I got some smaller ones, and these are just like a plasticky material, so they don't like get waterlogged as much either. So I think that they're really nice and I love them. One of these socks did end up causing me quite a bit of a hassle. A very funny story. I went and trimmed my yarn because I like kind of wove in the ends, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to trim my yarn. It's all washed and blocked and ready to go. Perfect. And then I went and I was stretching out the rib cuff, and stitches just started to unravel randomly. Like things were just falling out of the bind off and stitches were just unraveling. And I was like, holy moly, what happened? And what happened was, like, even though I had weaved in the yarn, I didn't secure it with a knot like I normally do. So then it just started to completely, the bind off edge just started to completely come out and just completely like fall apart, and that was crazy. So I ended up just pulling out the entire bind off edge. I picked up the stitches again with my needles, and I used some yarn. Luckily I did have some leftovers, so I decided to just scrap that yarn and use new yarn, and I picked up my stitches and then bound off using a new yarn. This time I made sure to really, really secure my ends. I made sure to put a little knot in there. Normally I do like a little knot just at the end, and I think I just didn't do it correctly. I think I pulled the yarn wrong or something. I honestly have no idea what happened, but it was really scary. I was like, oh my god, my socks are falling apart. But in the end, everything was okay. I think there are still some like little eensy mistakes on this sock where I tried to pick up stitches to do the bind off again, and I didn't quite get everything the exact way that it was, but that's totally fine. Nobody else but me can tell. Nobody else is going to be staring at my feet either, or my ankles. And I keep trying to tell myself that part of making your own clothes and part of knitwear is definitely having a little mistake, because I am human. I'm not a machine. These are, as I've mentioned, my first pair of DK weight socks, and they worked up so fast. They took probably 2 days, like one sock per day. I could do a sock in a day pretty much, or maybe 2 or 3 days. And I'm really excited to knit some more DK weight socks because of how fast they worked up. I am wanting to knit my boyfriend a pair of DK weight socks, something thicker that he can wear like inside the house as like cozy socks. So very excited for that. I'm going to be wearing these out, I think, today, just because I really want to wear them and have a little fun with my little ruffly socks. So yeah, those are my second finished objects. Very, very exciting. Now let's move on to number 3. Okay, number 3 is, let's do this. It is my boucle hat. This is the beanie number 5 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and the yarn is from Speckle and Friend in the Bouncy Boucle DK. It's the colorway Strawberry Wafer, and I purchased it from Black Squirrel Yarns, Berkeley. And I thought that was a really, really cute store as well. I ended up walking from where I was staying in Berkeley to that store, and it was about an hour almost of a walk, and it was really lovely right by the water and stuff through a nice neighborhood. And I just knew I wanted to get some local Berkeley yarn. So this hat has a really thick brim. It's pretty much all brim, and it is knit up with 2 strands of boucle held together to get gauge. I actually had to fudge the ends of the hat a little bit because my yarn, I had a lot less of it than what the pattern originally called for. What I should have done was gotten 2 skeins of the boucle and held them double, but instead I just got 1 skein and pulled from the outside and from the inside, which made the yarn a little more, like, made me have much less yarn than I should have for the pattern. So I basically knit the brim 100% to pattern, following the lengths and the instructions. And then once I knit a bit of the top of the hat, I did rapid decreases. So the pattern does like slower decreases every other round before rapidly decreasing. And I was like, you know what? It's definitely going to fit my head already. So I just went ahead and did rapid decreases at the top. It does like kind of have these little pockets because of how rapid I did the decreases. But when you spread it out on your head, I feel like you can barely tell. And the whole point of me making this hat was I really wanted a hat that had a huge brim because I've been seeing them everywhere. And I think this totally fits the bill. Looks super cute. And turned out really, really nice. I didn't have any yarn left over. I did just use all of it for this hat. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Normally, I don't do such a thick brim or even a double folded brim. This is a double folded brim, so it's super, super warm. I'm wondering if I should tack down the brim. I probably won't because that just feels like too much work. And I think I'm okay with just kind of finessing with it every time I need to put on the hat. But I really love the way that this turned out, and I feel like it's going to be great for the winter. In the winter, it gets so cold and dreary in upstate New York. It gets dark really early. Even here in California, it's getting dark at like 5 o'clock, so early, and I'm feeling very like tired and a little bit lethargic. And I think that having this bright color in my life will really just liven every outfit and make me a little smilier, make me feel a little happier even when I'm getting dressed. I think I've been working a lot, you'll see, with neutrals and like especially this gray. Like I did the Copenhagen cardigan. Oh, there's my pocket. I did the Copenhagen cardigan. I've done the fingerless mitts. I have another work in progress that's in this gray. So definitely a lot of like gray neutrally colors, and putting in this like bright pop of pink and using this color was so much fun. It took me 2 or 3 days last week, so like 2 weeks ago, to knit it up, and it was so fast because obviously the boucle yarn was like quite thick and chunky and worked up really, really fast, and the colorway was just like so enticing. I was like, wow, I want to keep going on this. And it was all stockinette. It's all stockinette, so super, super easy to just plow through it while watching TV, just knitting in the round. And I had a really good time working on this hat. I've also already posted pictures on my Instagram, so if you follow me over there, you have already seen this lovely little beanie, and you've also seen the Copenhagen cardigan. So yeah, now let's get into my next one. I think this is my last finished object. Yes, this is number 5. This is my last finished object, and something I'm very, very proud of. These are my sailor slippers. Oh my gosh, kind of love them. So this was the first one that I made. I showed it in last week's podcast as a half finished object, and this is the second one that I made. Look at here, I just finished that this week. So there's quite a little bit to talk about with these slippers. I talked about it a bunch in my last podcast, but in case you haven't seen that one or don't want to pop over there, I'm going to give a bit of a recap, rundown, TLDR about these sailor slippers. I knit these with 3 strands of DK weight yarn held together to get the gauge of like bulky yarn. You obviously have to use 100% wool because you're felting this. I felted it in my washing machine on the hot and cold setting and ran it for about 5 hours. So it took a really long time to felt. I feel like I did not expect it to take so long. The pattern said it would take like an hour and a half, which it did not. Other people on the internet seem to have done it way faster, and I don't know if it's because I used plied yarn held together, so then it was taking a lot longer to felt, or if my machine is just different. I have no idea what really happened, but it took a very long time. But I think the finished product is by far worth it. Since the slippers are felted, they are really thick and really warm. My feet feel super warm inside. If you're wearing a pair of socks, it's even more cozy to wear. Super nice. And even though it took a long time for it to felt, in the end, I think it turned out looking really nice. So this is my first slipper, and as you can see, it does look really nice. My second slipper, on the other hand, looks a little janky. See, it's a little like slightly tilted to the side, and the toe isn't quite like, it's not quite centered, and I'm honestly just not sure what happened. I don't know if I just like felted it weird and I didn't stretch it into the correct shape, or if perhaps my stitching was done weird, because she has a very specific way of seaming up these slippers. So you knit it as like one complete piece and then you seam it all around. And I don't know if I like should have followed her way of seaming, because I did not. So I just whip stitched all the way around because I really hate seaming. I'm not a mattress stitch person. I'm not a Kitchener stitch person. That is why I always do my socks toe up. I really, really do not like having to seam at the end because I feel like it's just too much work. It's not fun for me. I'm not very good at it. It takes a long time and I just don't love it. So basically there's that. And so I just whip stitched the entire thing together, and I was like, it'll turn out fine, because this side turned out fine. So I'm not really sure like what happened exactly between the difference. When they're on my feet, you can't really tell. The slippers look pretty similar, and like my feet kind of like puff them out to shape, so it looks pretty good. And yeah, that's pretty much the story behind these slippers. They are a little slippery for sure. Like, we have hardwood all throughout my house, and so there's definitely a lot of like back and forth slipping and sliding on the slippers. I did order some of those like little glue dots that I'm gonna put on the bottom of the slipper, and hopefully I will get that done within the next like week or so, and so I can walk around the house more comfortably. I wore these a ton on Thanksgiving on Thursday. I wore them just while walking around the house, doing my cooking, cleaning, eating, and they even went outside with me. So it was really, really convenient to have this pair of slippers that I could just use all day. I thought that was super, super nice. And it was just I think it's just a really good slipper to have. I'm not normally a slipper person. Like, I don't really own slippers. I started wearing them in my homestay in Denmark, and I got more used to wearing them, but mostly around home, I just wear socks, or I walk around barefoot, but mostly socks. And so it's really nice to be able to wear socks with these slippers because they're super warm and keep my feet really toasty and warm. And it's also just kind of nice to have something to wear around the house. Overall, I am super, super happy with the way that this turned out. And I am so happy that now let's get into my whips, where I will show you a new pair of sailor slippers that I'm working on. So now let's go into whips. So here we have my new pair of sailor slippers. This is slipper number 1. And this is slipper number 2. Slipper number 2 is a little bit further along. So as you can tell, same colors. I'm using all of the scraps from my first set of slippers in order to do this second set. Again, it's just the DK weight yarns that I have, which are 100% wool held triple. So here we go. I'm going to purchase some more yarn of the Patron classic wool worsted in order to do the sole, but I'm not counting that as an acquisition because I am purchasing the yarn and will be immediately using it to finish the project. So I think that's totally fine because I'm trying to really limit my yarn purchases. I cast this on Thursday, like on Thanksgiving in the morning, and I did all of this during the day, during Thanksgiving. I was sitting on the couch with my sister's in-laws and some friends, and basically just completely knitting away on these slippers all day. I didn't really work on anything else. I just worked on the slippers, and I decided to work on them kind of 2 at a time. I went back and forth because I wanted to make sure that I had enough yarn, and I do have just enough left of the blue to do the tip of my first slipper, and I will need some more brown to add in another stripe, but that should be totally fine. So obviously these slippers worked up incredibly quickly. This was probably like, you know, an 8-hour day, and like I was able to do not one, but pretty much like 2 slippers and get all of that done at the same time. I was also able to, like, I wasn't just obviously sitting on the couch all day. I was cooking and eating with people and hanging out, and I still got so much done. I would say I started them around 9:30, 10 in the morning, and I got this far by 5 p.m. So yeah, it was really great. Pretty much just like, you know, 9 to 5, 8-hour day. And I am loving the way that the slippers are turning out so far. This time I'm actually challenging myself, and I'm going to follow her method of seaming. I'm going to be good and actually seam all the way around the way that the pattern tells me to, and not just be lazy and whip stitch it all together. I have seen other people's slippers look really nice and like very like perfectly round and cohesive, and I think that has to do with the seaming. And so I'm going to seam them together really nicely this time, and I'm also going to do a more aggressive like shaping after I take them out of the washing machine when I'm felting, because I want them to look a little bit nicer. These are going to be my school slippers, so my school sailor slippers, a little bit of alliteration there. I'm taking them with me back to college in the spring. I'm going to be an RA, and something that we do as part of being an RA or residential assistant is we make rounds in the building that we live in. And so it'll be nice to have a pair of like slippers, something I can slide on really easily, and something that's really warm because it gets super cold in upstate New York, to be able to wear and have with me. I think that'll just be really nice. I am very excited to keep working on these. Obviously, I've run out of yarn for now, so I haven't done any work on it since Thanksgiving. So I haven't worked on it Friday or even today. But hopefully this weekend I will pick up some more yarn, maybe on like Sunday while I come home from my sister's place. I'll get some more yarn to continue working on my sailor slippers, and hopefully by the next podcast, another 2 weeks or so, I am done. I will be going on a trip, and I won't be taking the slippers with me. I will talk a little bit about what exactly I'm going to take with me on my trip in the coming whip section, because there's a couple things I'm working on that will definitely be coming with me, and then one more thing that will definitely not be coming with me. So let's move on to my longest standing whip. So you've seen this one in every single podcast pretty much, but it is the lovely Lauder Sweater V-neck by Rebecca Clow of the Creabea. Oh, sailor slippers, I will insert it, but they are the sailor slippers by Annie Sews. So yeah, have that. So this is the Lauder Sweater V-neck by Rebecca Clow, the Creabea. She's a knitwear designer. She has a YouTube, and I am currently on my second sleeve. So I finished the first sleeve a while ago, and then I put this down, and I haven't worked on it a lot since, but I picked it back up and done my second sleeve. I am planning to do a total of 36 cable repeats for the sleeve. I scoured Instagram and like YouTube and looked at the pattern pictures and zoomed in and tried to like count the number of cable repeats other people were doing to figure out how many I wanted to do. I am someone who, again, really likes a bit of a longer sleeve, so that's why I chose to do a bit more cable cable repeats. And another modification I made to this sweater is that it's a straight sleeve. Originally in the pattern, she does do decreases, so the sleeve kind of like tapers in, but I'm just doing a straight sleeve. I just didn't want to do the decreases, honestly. I felt like it was too much work to decrease while also doing the cables, and I knew I would just go a lot faster if I did a straight sleeve, and I think I like the way that a straight sleeve looks anyway. I like a big oversized sleeve. I think it'll be really cute, and the other sleeve turned out good. So very happy overall with the way that it is turning out. Today, my goal is to do another 6 cable repeats and get done with the cable section and then just move on to the ribbing. Hopefully I will be able to accomplish that. That is the plan. So by the next podcast, I will have 2 sleeves done and hopefully worked on the body a little bit as well, but no guarantees on the body. I might just be taking a break from cabling after finishing these sleeves. I really love the cable pattern. Let me zoom here so you can see it. It's a small cable and a big cable, so it's like a 1 round cable and then it's like a multi-braid, and I think it just looks so lovely. This is my first all over cabled project. I've done like a hat before and beanies, but I've never done a whole sweater, and it's been very tedious. I think I cast this on almost 2 years ago now. My mom went to Taiwan and got me the yarn. I don't really know anything about it. It's a cotton nylon blend, and she picked it up in Taiwan for me, and I really, really like it. And I cast it on about 2 years ago, right when I first got the yarn, and I kept picking it up and putting it back down just because the cabling was pretty tedious. I did use this pattern to learn how to cable without a cable needle, which I think is really great. It really speeds up the process so much when you're not using a cable needle, because I'm not like putting things on a different needle and then knitting and putting them back. I can kind of just go straight around, and it is also like it's a repeat, so like you cable 1 round and then you knit a couple rounds flat, and then you cable 1 round, you knit a couple rounds flat, and so it's not always cabling, which I also think helps. On the sleeve, it definitely feels like I'm cabling more often because the rounds are shorter, which is why I think it's taking me a little bit longer, but I'm really excited to have this finished. My goal is to have this sweater finished by the springtime so that I can wear it in the spring. Since the cotton fiber, it's not super warm like a wool, and so I think it'll be a lot nicer like in March, like early March and springtime, when it's not super cold, but it's not super hot super cold anymore, but it's also not super hot, and I can wear this really fun sweater. I chose to do a v-neck, so this sweater has a lot of firsts. It's also my first big v-neck as well, my first all over cabled as well, and so I think it's looking really, really good, and I'm beyond excited to have this finished and to wear this. I'm also considering maybe entering this into the Rhinebeck like sweater competition for next fall, because I'm so proud of these cables and how this turned out and how much I really, really love it. Very, very excited. I think that's all I have to say about this sweater. Ooh, actually, I have a very funny story. Yesterday, I had to perform some sweater surgery for this sweater, actually. I was working on the cable repeats on the arm, and I realized that I had done 2 of the like small cables instead of alternating between 1 small cable and 1 braid cable. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible, because I realized it like way far down. I was probably maybe like 6 or no, more than that. I was like 9 rows past where I had started to make the mistake, and so there was a lot of it to fix. And I have never ever fixed cables before. The one time that I did a cable beanie and I made a mistake, I ended up just ripping it all out and just going back, picking up stitches, and basically restarting from where I could, because I didn't know how to fix it. But this time I was like, I really, really, really do not want to rip out 9 rounds of the arm. That would be kind of horrendous, and I probably would have to put the project in timeout if that had happened to me, and I wouldn't have worked on it for a really long time because it would have made me sad. So I was like, you know what? I am going to do some sweater surgery and attempt to fix this. So I pulled out my needle from the stitches and I dropped down all like 9 rounds, and then I was like, I got this. And so I basically laddered all the way back up, knitting in the correct cable way. Like I was just using the like yarn behind the like long float to knit it up, and I redid all the cable, and it actually turned out super good. I can't even tell anymore exactly where the mistake is. And when I asked my mom to look after I finished it, she couldn't really tell either. And I think that is awesome. It definitely would have bothered me to not have the cables right on the sleeve because it would have looked really funky. So I am really glad that I was able to do sweater surgery and go back and fix it. And I'm really proud of myself for having learned this new skill and having fixed the sweater. And I know this will be super useful in the future. So yeah, hopefully today I'm going to finish the rest of the cable repeats. I've got a cute little Christmas stitch marker on here marking my beginning of round, and I'm just working round and round on the small circulars, which is actually going really well, and I'm really loving the way that everything is turning out. So yeah, that is my oldest standing whip. That's whip number 2 over here. Now let's get into the whips that I will be taking with me on my trip to New York and New Jersey. Let's start off with one of my newer whips. It's one of my newer whips. It is the Nomad Hood. Let's see who it's by. The Nomad Hood by Suzanne Mueller, which is let's see, Paula Suzanne Mueller, which is Paula Strict. So that's the designer. So it's the Nomad Hood by Paula Strict. I believe she's also a Danish designer. So the way that this works is it should sit on my head like this, like a little balaclava moment. Very exciting. Looks a little bit also, I'm reminded of a bonnet, like I'm a little pilgrim girl, which I think is kind of funny. This had a lot of new things for me as well, this hood. Basically I learned to do Judy's Magic Cast On. I am doing brioche for the first time on this, so it's a really nice stretchy fabric, and I think it's so pretty, and it's like rib, but a little bit elevated rib, which I think looks really, really, really nice. Very happy with the way that it is turning out. So you knit the beanie like this pretty much, back and forth in a U shape, and so that's how it's going right now. I do have some questions that I would if anyone can answer them, please leave it in the comments. I have been so confused about this. So she calls this stitch half fisherman's rib. But when I went to Google half fisherman's rib tutorial, I saw that half fisherman's rib was a series of knit into the row below. And then when I went to Google brioche tutorials, I saw that brioche was made with the yarn over. And this stitch, the stitch pattern that she writes out, is done with a yarn over, which is why I'm calling it brioche. I'm wondering if it's different between the US and Europe. Is brioche one thing in the US and something else in Europe? And I tried to discuss with ChatGPT what the difference was between brioche and half fisherman's rib and fisherman's rib, and I couldn't really get a straight answer. And I tried to do a ton of Googling also, and I couldn't really get a straight answer. From what I can tell, in the US at least, brioche is made with a yarn over in the stitch pattern, and half fisherman's rib or fisherman's rib is made with knit into the row below. If anyone knows if this is correct or if I'm just 100% wrong, please let me know, because honestly this has been bothering me forever. I love the stitch pattern and I've just been calling it brioche, but I have no idea. It could be half fisherman's rib. I could be crazy. I also heard of this thing called half brioche. I don't know what that is. So if anyone has a great explanation for the difference between brioche, fisherman's rib, half fisherman's rib, half brioche, or has a video that they want to point me to, or a blog or a website or just anything like that, please, please, please leave it down in the comments. I really want to get this all sorted and figured out and be ready to knit with it in the future and make sure I'm calling it the right stitch. I'm really excited for this hood to be done. I think it's going to be super warm to wear in upstate New York. I am making it out of Drops Nord. This yarn, Drops Nord, is, let's see, it is 45% alpaca, 30% polyamide, and 25% wool. So it's very, very soft. And the polyamide also obviously gives it that sturdiness, which I feel like will be really good for a nice hood that I can wear outside in the winter. Maybe put my big jacket over it, something like that, wear it skiing or sledding or just out and about. So very, very excited. Obviously, it's also another gray color. It's a little bit different, a little bit more of a brighter gray than the color that I used for my Copenhagen cardigan and my mitts. But I'm still really excited to be able to wear all of my little gray accessories with my cardigan and put it all together. My friends, I don't know who came up with this, but like when you wear a gray outfit, my friend is like, it's your grout fit, your gray outfit. And so I really feel like I'm making my own little grout fit here with my mitts and my cardigan and my beanie. All that I need is some gray sweatpants, and I'll really have that complete grout fit look. So I'm very excited for that. I haven't worked on this a lot in the past week. I took it with me to knitting group last week, and I worked on it. There's a group of lovely ladies who meet in Long Beach at different restaurants and knit, and I took it with me. Before that, I met up with my friend Linda at a coffee shop, and we knit for like 2 hours and talked and chat and just caught up on life. And so I worked on this there, and then I worked on it a little bit more while I was at my kind of knitting dinner, but I haven't really done it since then. It is coming with me on my trip to New York, and I'm going to be very excited to be working on it then. I don't know how much work it'll get done. I don't know, because it's not a huge priority for me right now, because the other 2 whips that I currently have on my needles, I am prioritizing more for right now. And I also got this really cute new project bag. Let's see, there we go. They're dogs knitting, and I picked this up at SoCal Fiber Fair. If you're interested in seeing everything that I bought at SoCal Fiber Fair and hearing me debrief the entire fair, I have a whole video on that as well. So now let's get into my next whip that I will be taking with me on my trip that has also not seen any progress. This is my Luke socks. So these are the Andrea Mowry DRK everyday socks. I'm doing them in the ribbing. I've also done these socks in plain stockinette before, but I've never done a ribbed sock for my boyfriend, so I'm doing that. I have not made any progress on this since the last podcast. It's probably been like 3 weeks. It's been a while. The last time I knit on this, I was like at Disneyland. I just haven't really worked on it at all because it's not a super priority for me right now. My boyfriend knows that he's getting these socks. He's seen me work on them. He's seen the progress, and he's not in any of a rush because I've knit him other socks before. I said before, I really want to make him a pair of DK weight socks next. I think that'll be super cozy and warm and nice to wear as well. Once again, these socks are knit toe up, which just makes it my favorite because I don't have to do any seaming, and it turned out super nice. This yarn I've mentioned before is Cocon Blue. It is a 100% non-superwash wool, and so it doesn't have nylon in it, which means it won't be as hardy to wear. But I really think that the non-superwash will be really nice and hold up very nicely for the socks and look really nice overall. I'm planning to take these with me as well. These socks go in this tiny little project bag, and they just come with me wherever. I shove them in my purse, and they just come with me. It's super convenient to have this little project on the needles and on the go. Very convenient for when I am like going somewhere like to dinner or have to wait in a line, or if I'm going with like my sister to hang out and stuff like that, just to have a little project that I can work on and then shove away and just put it down. I'm currently on the heel of the socks, and so once I get past the heel flap and gusset, it'll just be plain stockinette for the rest of the cuff, and that'll be really, really easy. So I'm very, very excited to get there. Hopefully within the next couple weeks, by the next podcast, I will have also made some progress on these lovely socks. Now this is my last whip, and it is also my newest whip, and the one that I will be putting the most time and energy into for the foreseeable future. This is the beginning of the sibling sweater My Size by Laura Penrose of Penrose Knits. She's also one of my favorite knitting vloggers. She doesn't really do podcasts anymore, but one of my favorite vloggers. And I'm doing it in this really lovely striped color. So this yarn is from Sea Change Fibers. It's their Lowit DK, which is 100% BFL, blue-faced Leicester. And I have never ever worked with BFL before, so this is very, very exciting. And the green color here, the green is called Evergreen, and then this one, the like more neutral color, is called Odette. So I think it looks really nice. I just finished doing the back and shoulder shaping, and now I'm knitting stockinette flat, so knitting and purling for the back until I get to about the underarm, where I'll pick up stitches for the front and then join to knit in the round. I really want to get this joined in the round by the time I get back from my trip, so within the next week basically. I have always wanted to make a striped sweater. I saw so many striped sweaters while I was at SoCal Fiber Fair, just a ton of them honestly, and I had like a lot of FOMO. I was like, I really, really need a striped sweater. People are doing such fun things. And I feel like these colors are really nice because they're not only my school colors, like this like dark green, but it's also a little bit of a Christmassy color. And the reason that I'm going to be putting so much work into this sweater is because I want it to be my Christmas sweater. I want to wear it like on Christmas Day in front of the Christmas tree, unboxing all my presents, stuff like that. And I am determined to make this happen. It is 4mm needles, DK weight yarn, and once I get it in the round, I know that the stripes will just fly off the needles. So I'm very excited to get going on this and to make a lot of progress. This is going to be the main thing that I'm working on throughout my entire trip. I am a little bit off gauge, so my knitting hot take is that I never really gauge swatch. Shh, it'll be our little secret. And I am lucky enough that if I knit the smallest size of pretty much any any sweater pattern, it will fit me, either like perfectly fit me or have some like positive or like a little bit of negative ease, and that's totally fine. And so I was like, I don't really want to gauge swatch for this project because I'm lazy and I really just want to get started and start working on it. So I basically just immediately cast on and started knitting, and I was like, she uses DK weight yarn, this is DK weight yarn, I'm gonna be fine. Like, I knit on 4mm needles all the time. And I think I'm a little bit off gauge because this DK, the BFL, is a little bit lighter than I think the DK that she uses in the pattern. And so my fabric is definitely a little more drapey, if you can't tell. Like, I don't know how to show that, but it's definitely a little more drapey. It's not as thick. It's not wholey by any means. Like, if it was wholey, I would have pulled it back and done like used a smaller needle size and tried to get gauge a different way, or like scrapped it and used a different yarn to knit this pattern. But it's not wholly in any way, so I think that that's totally fine. I'm also expecting the BFL to significantly like block out. I feel like I've heard that it fluffs up when it's blocked and it'll like kind of fill that space. I don't know because I've never really worked with BFL, so I'm very excited to see how this turns out. I have to do, I think, 5 more stripes for the back before I can start picking up for the front. I've also got my super cute green Labubu stitch marker on here, keeping me company. So yeah, overall, I think the project is going really well. I really like the fabric. I like how it's turning out. I love the stripes. Everyone I was meeting was saying like, the stripes make the project go so fast because you just want to get on to the next stripe, and they are correct. I do just want to get onto the next stripe. And it's a good way to be like, oh, I have to do 5 more stripes and not like, I have to do like 70 more rows. Like, it sounds way less daunting, and it just makes me much more likely to actually do it and get it done. So yeah, this is the project that will 100% be coming with me on my trip. So just for a little recap, for my New York trip, I am taking with me the sweater that I'm working on. It is the Sibling Sweater My Size by Laura Penrose. I'm also taking the DRK Everyday Socks that I'm working on for my boyfriend Luke. And I am taking the Nomad Hood by Paula Strict that I'm working on for myself as well. So I've got 3 different projects all coming with me to New York. I'm only gone for like a week, and I definitely know that I don't need 3 projects for a week, but I think this is a thing that every knitter does, is that you bring way too many projects for what you actually need, because you're just like, what if I run out and I need more knitting and I don't want to be left without my knitting? So I'm taking all of these with me to New York and New Jersey, and hopefully I'll be able to get a bunch of progress done. Now I want to wrap up by talking a little bit about like life section. I'm not going to do acquisitions in probably the next couple of podcasts for a while because I really want to be working from stash this year. I don't want to be buying any more yarn. I have more than enough yarn between my stash here at home and my stash at school that I really need to work through and like use. And that is really beautiful. And it's all yarn that I love and I want to use. So obviously I'm trying to limit my buying. Originally, I wasn't even going to buy anything at SoCal Fiber Fair, but this sweater quantity of the like BFL just really stood out to me, so I did end up getting that. So I'm saying that this will be my last purchase, like the sweater quantity of BFL, for the pretty foreseeable future. I really don't want to be buying any more yarn for the pretty foreseeable future, so we're gonna go with that. And so in lieu of doing acquisitions, I'm going to do a little life section at the end of every podcast. Feel free to listen along and just knit and while I chat about a little bit about what's going on recently. But also feel free to click away if this isn't your thing, because I know everyone's here for the knitting content. Not everyone's very invested in my life, you know? So let's get started. So 2 weeks ago, my dad officially moved home from China. He's been living and working in China since I was a pretty little kid, so like my entire life basically, and he's decided to leave that job and move home and come back to the US, back to the States, and to find work here and to just be home with us. It's been honestly really amazing. It's been weird, but in a good way. So when he first moved home, I think I was on the phone with my boyfriend and I was just like, I honestly was so happy that he was here. I was like crying a little bit because it was so cool just to have him around. We've done things like just sit on the couch and watch Harry Potter, sit in our tea room and just drink tea and chat. He's been cooking for me and my mom while we're at home and just like hanging out. And it's been really amazing. I never really got to have that in my life since he's always been abroad. It's pretty much just been like me, my mom, and my siblings. He wasn't there as much because he was working. And we would call him like every day, and my mom talks to him all the time. He would come home and visit, but it just wasn't the same as him being there all the time. And so it's really cool to have him around all the time. His food that he's been making is amazing. I've been eating a ton, and it's just been cool to like have someone else to chat with and hang out with. And we're both kind of in this state where like he's not working, I'm not in school, so we're just like hanging around, lounging around the house all day, and it is really, really nice. Something that I've been saying a lot to my boyfriend and my therapist is I feel like being home with both my parents is really healing my inner child. And I think that this is showing me that God had a plan for me and that it's okay. I wasn't able to stay in my study abroad program, because if I hadn't come home, I wouldn't have gotten this time with my mom and my dad. I wouldn't be spending time with my grandparents either, and I wouldn't be able to see my sister and my niece as well. I'm here seeing my niece grow up. I'm seeing her make these like milestones. She's learning to sit and she really wants to crawl and she's rolling and she's adorable. And I wouldn't have gotten to be here for any of that if I was still abroad. And so I think that really goes to show that everything does work out for a reason, and that there's always a reason that everything happens, and everything will work out in the end the way that it is supposed to, as long as you just let the pieces fall the way that they will. Let's see. It's been really cool also to obviously be hanging out with my sister and my niece. After this podcast today, I'm heading over to my sister's, and we are going to watch the new Wicked movie, and I'm going to spend the weekend at her place crashing on the couch and just hang out. It's really great to see her and chat with her and see my niece as well. She is so adorable. I really want to knit my niece something. I have yarn to knit her something. It's a baby cashmerino from Rowan, but I just don't know what I want to make yet. And it's kind of sitting there, and it's not like priority number one for me, so it's kind of just sitting in stash. Hopefully eventually I will get something on the needles before she grows too big and I can't get anything on the needles for her. So yeah. Let's see what else has been going on with me. I was able to go to SoCal Fiber Fair with one of my really good friends, and so I got to catch up with her as well. I also went pottery painting all by myself, one of the challenges I'm trying to do is go do something alone at least once a week, because I get really anxious about being alone. I feel like people are judging me. I feel out of place and I feel really awkward. And I know that none of that is true. I know nobody's judging me. Nobody cares about me in the best way possible. And I am totally fine being alone, but it's just those like inner monologue that's like, screaming at me all the time. So I'm trying to encourage myself to do more things alone and to push myself out of my comfort zone. And I feel like it's been going pretty well. I did like a good 2 hours of pottery painting by myself, and it felt a little awkward at first, but I definitely eased into it and ended up feeling a lot more comfortable as the time went on. Yeah. I'll end my little short life chat. I think it's been maybe like 5 or so minutes. I don't want to talk too long. Just talking a little bit about what I've been watching and stuff like that recently. So recently I have been listening to all of the Harry Potter audiobooks, which is going really, really well. I love the books. I'm on the second one so far. I listen to them while I'm driving, sometimes while I'm getting ready in the morning, and sometimes while I'm just doing some like little easy work or knitting. I've also been rewatching the Harry Potter movies. So far, I'm on the 6th movie. I haven't gotten there yet. I just finished number 5 with my mom after Thanksgiving that evening. And so that was a really good day as well. I love the Harry Potter movies. Obviously, J.K. Rowling has a lot of issues, and I don't agree with any of her views, and I don't want to be that person who supports her in any way, but I did like grow up, my sister loved Harry Potter and I do love it, and it's very comforting to me, and I'm not gonna give it up either. So yeah, maybe also a little bit of a hot take. But yeah, I've been watching Harry Potter and listening to the audiobooks. We do own all of them already, so it's not like I'm like giving her more money. And then I've also been watching Gilmore Girls. It's a fall comfort favorite for me. Love that show. I basically just put it on in the background. I can like read the script to you. I know what happens. I know everything pretty much already. And I've also been watching Love Island Australia. I'm very behind. I think I have 3 or 4 episodes that I need to catch up on. It comes out on Hulu like days behind when it comes out in Australia. And so I got a bunch of spoilers on Instagram, but I'm totally fine with that. I'm the person who likes to read the plot of the movie before getting into the movie and watching it to make me feel a little better. So I'm totally fine with seeing the spoilers. I just want to watch it. I love the drama. I love how everything's going. It feels very, like, it's very brain rot for me, and just something cool I can just watch and enjoy and not really have to think about. And lastly, on a knitting related note, I have been watching mainly Nitty Natty and Laura Penrose of Penrose Knits. So Natalie from Nitty Natty recently moved, and she has been she did a video of her like reorganizing some of her stash and like prepping to move and stuff like that. And so I watched that, and it made me very much want to organize my stash and do a stash video as well. And then I've just been watching all of Laura Penrose's Penrose Knits vlogs. I love her vlogs. Her life seems so idyllic and peaceful, and she gets so much knitting done, and I absolutely love that as well. So that's pretty much all from me today. Thank you so much for sticking with me through a bit of a longer video. I did have 5 finished objects and 5 works in progress, so a lot going on. Hopefully, I'm going to start paring down things on my needles and not have so many whips going as once, because it is a little overwhelming to have all of that. And hopefully I will get a lot of knitting done within the next 2 weeks, and I will see you all in the next video. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend and had an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope everyone gets a ton of knitting done, and I can't wait to see you guys next. Bye! Hey y'all, this is one last thing I wanted to pop in and say. If you haven't noticed, for the last video of SoCal Fiber Fair and for this one, I am in a new location. This is my bunk bed behind me, and I'm in my room. I used to be filming in our tea room pretty much, but I decided to move into my room now that my dad is home and we are actually using the tea room. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to give a clarification. I keep forgetting to mention it in my videos, so before I edit, I just wanted to pop on here and let you guys know that this is my new location, and I'm just basically sitting on the floor of my room. very comfortable. I've got a little guy behind me as a backrest. And yeah, this will be the new location that all of your podcasts will be coming in from until I go back to college in the spring. So, sounds good. See y'all.